This is S100 at the Tour Down Under.
Welcome to the GCN
Tech Show! Woo!
And I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest tech that these guys are using. Go on, guys.
And of course, having already got an amazing tan, I've stayed back here in our beloved maintenance set where I will be bringing you this week's big debate, metal versus carbon, and of course the second induction into the GCN Tech Wall of Fame with a little cameo from Captain Retro.
What's hot in tech this week? Well, for a start, my body is absolutely scorching. Yet sadly though, that is not tech, far from it. I would just actually like to thank though on that note, the people of Adelaide for making us feel so welcome here at the Tour Down Under. Your comments on how much you love GCN and everything we do is just been absolutely outstanding, and I'd really like to thank you all for coming up to us and telling us. Now, time to raise the temperature just a little bit more, as if I need to. How about these? Digital Sole heated insoles spotted recently at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. Now, the temperature range on these insoles is actually between 30 and 45 degrees centigrade, and it's controlled through an app on your phone. They also track where you've been. Now, presumably that's also through the app and not through a GPS unit inside of the inner sole, as that would be a little bit overkill, I think. Now, to charge up the insoles, it's simply a USB cable, and the battery life is between 2 to 6 hours, depending on your desired output of temperature. Weight-wise, they come in at between 120 and 160 grams, and finally, price is $199. I think I'd probably pay that actually, so I wouldn't get cold feet during the winter. Now, I wonder if I can get a pair in time for my arrival back at GCN HQ. One thing's for certain though, I do not need them right now. In fact, I need ice-cold insoles.
Now, Cask, together with Team Sky, have been working very closely together to bring you this. This is the brand new Utopia Helmet, which we just saw launched a couple of days ago. Now, the purpose of it is to have an aero helmet which is suitable for use even in hot weather conditions. And believe me, the squad of Team Sky, they've been using it down here at the Tour Down Under, and the temperature has been reaching up to 40 degrees centigrade. Now, that is hot. Now, according to tests by Cask, it actually saves 6 watts over its nearest rival at 50k an hour. That's, quite a considerable amount really, isn't it? Now, the weight of it is 235 grams in a size medium, and there's 9 ventilation ports on there. Now, I'm going to have some more tech for you later on in the show, so stay tuned.
Cheers for that tech roundup, John. I'm not going to lie, the temperature in Adelaide does sound bloody lovely right now, although I'm not entirely sure that sunburn is a strong look. But anyway, while you have been stalking professional cyclists, I have been having great fun going through the comments that relate to this week's hot topic, metal versus carbon. Now, as we suspected, there are some very strong opinions out there, including this one from Dave Ross. Death to all but metal! And then some still emphatic but slightly mellower comments like this one from Bondles, who said, I dearly love my old aluminium Trek 1000, but I hopped on my first carbon bike last week, and as soon as I touched the pedals, it took off like a snake had bitten it. It is heaps of fun. Now, I know that feeling, totally. So, I think we should probably start with some facts, okay? If you want the lightest, the stiffest, and the most aerodynamic bike, you will have to have one that is made out of carbon fibre. I'm sorry, but you will. Let's start with the weight penalty for a start. The lightest carbon frames are about 350 grams lighter than the very lightest aluminium ones. Titanium, about the same, 350 grams heavier. And then steel is even more. That's about 700 grams heavier. And that is for the very, very lightest ones. Stiffness, yeah, metal frames can be made as stiff as carbon, but the weight penalty would be even greater. And then from an aerodynamics perspective, due to the properties of carbon, it can be sculpted into the necessary aerodynamic shapes to a far greater extent than a metal one. So, on paper, a carbon frame should be faster than a metal one. And as important as that is to some of us, it is still not the be-all and end-all. There's reliability for a start. And as we found out when we went to the Control Tech factory back in autumn, I do think it's interesting that carbon has clearly a greater resistance to fatigue, whereas aluminium clearly has greater resistance to impact. Metal frames should theoretically have a higher impact strength than carbon fibre. And that could come in really useful for if the worst happens, because let's face it, your frame is probably the most expensive part of your bike. And John Burnell agrees in the comments. He says that he's got both carbon and aluminium, and whilst he feels his carbon bike is so much faster and more comfortable, the aluminium has had probably half a dozen crashes, including, quite scarily, a full-on run over by a car in which it mostly survived, not quite sure what that is, but still runs fine. And for that reason alone, he feels more affinity for the workhorse metal. And also another comment from Pat Caballero, which I agree with in the most part, although there is one thing I take exception to, and we'll get onto that in a moment. He said, let's keep it metal for reliability. I could not imagine touring the Altiplano on my own on a carbon bike without fear of it going wrong. Agree with that. And then he says, besides, with the right brands of metal tubing, you can have the best of both worlds, super reliable and super light. Now, I'm not so sure about that. So, in my opinion, when you're making anything super light, you sacrifice an element of its reliability, simply because there is less material there. And that's true of carbon and also metal. No matter what the alloy is or what its properties, there is just less of it. And of course, a lot relies on the design and the engineering of it. And actually as well, it's worth remembering that carbon frames can be repaired. Maybe not in the Bolivian Altiplano, granted, but modern steels, or many of them anyway, cannot be repaired, and neither can aluminium, no matter where you are. But this whole robustness reliability thing does hide a really important point, I think, and that is that metal bikes can feel really robust, feel really reliable to ride. And I think that's part of the reason why I love my aluminium cyclocross bike so much, and also my steel road bike. What about price though? That really matters, and I think it's here that you get the real feather in the cap of metal bikes. They are much less expensive. Again, a gross generalization, but if you're looking at a top-end metal bike frame off the shelf, you'd be looking at about $1,000 perhaps, whereas an off-the-shelf carbon frame would be like $2,000 and upwards. And actually we've got a great comment here from Chris Hudson, who says that in the £2,000 to £3,000 range, I reckon metal bikes have the edge. Mason, Kinesis, Bowman, 3 British brands, seem to put so much research and design into unique and interesting frames at this price point. He then says it feels as though larger manufacturers' equivalent carbon frames simply inherit features from their flagship cousins, which justifiably, but unfortunately, cost bum-puckering amounts of money. And it's true, carbon manufacture is a much more labour-intensive process than making metal bikes. I mean, it's kind of ironic, really, seeing as a lot of people seem to think that they still just pop out of the mould like some cheap plastic toy. But the more complicated the frame and the lighter the frame, the more labour-intensive it becomes. So it is always going to be more costly, I guess. And now, lastly, perhaps most importantly, aesthetics. Oh yeah. Now there is undeniably a certain look to a modern carbon bike. Thomas Soto says as much. He says, steel is real. I prefer steel, but I love the new looks of carbon. And who's to argue? But having said that, there are no right or wrongs here. I mean, take a look at this. I dare you to disagree. That is an absolute stunner. Steel is real. But then, so is aluminium. Look at this. Whoa, and titanium. Man alive. And of course, carbon. All of them can be absolutely amazing. Arguably, carbon is lighter and faster, as we said. Metal, more robust. It certainly feels like it to ride. But they all scrub up pretty darn well at the end of the day. Which is why I sit firmly on the fence. Just like Tyler Curtis, in fact, in the comments, who said that his main bikes are made out of carbon, but he also has an aluminium Langster for commuting, as well as all city Macho Kings and Nature Boys made out of Reynolds 853 steel tubing. He then goes on to say that he loves his carbon bikes when he's really shredding on the road, in the trees or on the cross course, but both materials have their purposes and places. Now Tyler, with a quiver of bikes like that, you are truly a lucky man, but you also speak great sense. But we want to hear from the rest of you as well. What do you think? Are you a metaler? Or are you a carboner? Carboner? Well, better not say that. Anyway, let us know in the comment section down below which side of the fence you sit on and why. Or in fact, are you like Patrick Pecoraro, who says that wood frames are better than either metal or carbon? Now, I actually don't know about that. I have no opinion, but I hope to rectify that situation in the coming year. Now, do make sure you stay tuned as well. Next week's hot topic is going to be whether or not there is actually a difference in high-end frames. That, of course, as we just talked about, come out of a mould. Is there a difference between a Cervelo and a Pinarello, or a Giant and a Specialised? Get involved in the comment section. Wall of Fame, another thing I'm looking after whilst Mr. Cannings snoops around Australia. Now, last week we inducted our very first product onto the GCN Tech Wall of Fame, the Campagnolo Quick Release. And this week, following the suggestions of R. Bastian, Ben Kickert, Bart Carter, Alan Victor, James Cycle and Jared Bell, to name but a few, we are going for brake lever mounted integrated gear shifters, or more commonly and conveniently known as STIs. That's right, Shimano Total Integration, for it was the big S that launched this amazing bit of tech onto the road cycling world in 1990 with 8-speed Shimano Dura-Ace 7400. But interestingly, and this took me totally by surprise, the tech actually comes from mountain biking, because the previous year, 1989, Shimano launched Rapid Fire, and with it they brought ratchet mechanisms to gear shifters. So one lever pulled cable, and then a second lever released that cable in small increments. Then, as I said, it was the following year, 1990, where they brought that tech into a much needed place over on the road. Now, to elaborate and tell us exactly how needed it was, we need to hear from Captain Retro. Hello, mate.
Where's my costume?
Sorry, mate. Sorry about that.
That's nice to get a guest appearance on the Tech Show.
Yeah, cool.
But no, interestingly, Si, if GCN had been around in 1989, I'd have blown the lid on a fantastic scoop for Shimano, because although it was released in 1990, STIs were actually used in a prototype way in 1989. I was riding a race called the Nissan Classic at the back end of October of that year, and I spotted, very famous rider indeed, Phil Anderson using prototype STI levers, and I must admit, mate, it absolutely blew me away, because at that time I wasn't even using index shifters. I was basically on simplex retro shifters. So it really was a proper glimpse into the future, and blew a lot of riders away, actually. Amazing bit of tech.
It must genuinely have made a difference to rider speed, actually. Like, overall, that convenience of shifting from your handlebars.
But I think, yeah, fundamentally, Phil Anderson, what he said was that it worked really well, but it was the ability to shift out the saddle on climbs that made a big difference too.
Yeah, there we go then. And actually, quite amazingly, STIs didn't really change a great deal, did they? It took 20 years actually for Shimano to get rid of the cable that came out the side of the shifters. The only thing really was that the lever head ergonomics changed, I guess.
It was a system that worked really well. I mean, you were using the old-fashioned STI until about 2008, 2009.
Yeah, that's right. Now, Campagnolo, meanwhile, followed suit quite soon after, didn't they, with Ergo Power, where they had got rid of the cables coming out the side, and also they won a lot of fans for brake levers that didn't move. So Shimano, obviously, you have to move the brake levers. Some people preferred a more static brake lever. But I think I'm right in saying that actually by inventing STIs, Shimano kind of moved into pole position in the road group set market. Right?
It was just a little bit more tactile as well, and it took quite a few years for Campag to sort of catch up. And although I like a bit of Campag, again, Shimano was just, the feel of it, that little bit different. It was far more tactile, far more instantaneous, and I think with that system, they basically set the bar that high. It was a long time before the other manufacturers sort of caught up.
I think we might have just dropped a bombshell into the comment section there. So yeah, I'll, we'll leave it there. Do make sure you get involved in the comment section. Go easy on that whole Shimano Campag thing, but tell us what you would like to see inducted onto the GCN Tech Wall of Fame for next week. We need product number 3. Get thinking about it. Matt, I'd love to hear what you have to say, but let's stop the camera first.
First up, I need a cape.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Not like a racing cape, like a Captain Retro. Can we sort Matt out with a cape, please?
Now check out these, hard to miss, aren't they? New Specialised S-Works shoes that we've spotted on the feet of Quick Step Floors riders this week. Of course, they match up with those flashy helmets that we also see. Information on them is actually quite sparse, other than, I reckon they'll be called the S-Works 7. Keep your eyes peeled though, and we'll reveal all once we know more information.
So when I saw this Bianchi Specialist Massivi from the other side of the expo, I ran as fast as my flip-flops would take me, and I thought it was Marco Pantani's double winning bike of the Giro d'Italia and Tour de France back in 1998. Sadly, it's not, but it's just a bike to commemorate it. What's pretty cool about it is perched on top of that seat post is a saddle signed by Il Pirata himself, the legend Marco Pantani.
Now I've just come across this pair of wheels whilst having a look round here. These are the Zip 454 NSWs, and they're pretty unique, as I'm sure you'll agree, due to the sawtooth profiling here on the inside of the rim, which according to studies actually make them more stable in crosswinds. A pretty important feature once that wind starts blowing, I'm sure you'll agree. But what makes this pair so special is that you actually can't buy them. Yep, that's right. They are the tubular version. Now, I've only actually seen a couple of pairs here, and this pair are on the bike of Mads Schmidt of Team Katusha Alpecin, and the other pair are on that of Nathan Haas, who's the team leader for that squad here at the Tour Down Under. So who knows if we'll actually see them go into general production for the public. So Quickstep Floors for 2018 have made a switch in cockpit sponsors to Shimano's own brand Pro. And it would appear actually from looking around at some of the bikes that they've not got the full packages just yet. But hey, it's still early in the season, and I'm pretty sure that once back in Europe, all the bikes will be fully equipped with the Pro range.
So on the bike here of Nicholas Arndt, he's the team leader this year at the Tour Down Under for Team Sunweb. He's actually got the new Shimano power meter. They've actually replaced Pioneer, who were the last year's sponsors, and I'll tell you what, that's a very neat looking solution. It's based there just in the Spider, and then with a sensor on the inside of the chainstay. I do like the look of that.
Bike of the week time. First though, let's reveal last week's winning bike, where we put together two bikes actually from the women's peloton, and they were the bike of Canyon SRAM, and that was the Canyon Ultimate CF SLX, and it was up against Trek Drops and their Trek Imonda. And with a quite outstanding 77% of the votes, the winner was the Canyon Ultimate CF SLX of Canyon SRAM. Now, I don't actually have that one here with me. This one is Tiffany Cromwell's bike, which she very kindly loaned me. And I do hope actually that those votes, you weren't swayed by Simon Richardson's love for that bike, as he described to us last week.
Well, I'm going to go with the paint job first, John. It's my favourite colour scheme in the world. It's the Canyon SRAM team bike. So this is...
Don't let it influence you though, that it's his favourite.
Well, it didn't work last week, did it? It's the Canyon CF SLX Ultimate, ridden by the team.
And first up, we've got this Specialised S-Works Venge Vias disc. That is a mouthful, isn't it? This particular model belongs to Elia Viviani of Quickstep Floors. Obviously, we've got ourselves the aerodynamic frame, aerodynamic cockpit, Shimano Dura-Ace Di2 with disc brakes. Yep, I hear the gasp from some of you already. Roval wheels, a Specialised power meter down there as well as a Specialised tube saddle with carbon fibre rails. So now you've got to vote for either this and this, the Factor 02 of Age des Arts Le Mondial. Obviously, the Factor 02 frame set, a black ink handlebar, stem and seat post, Physique Alianti carbon braided saddle, Shimano Dura-Ace Di2 group set, Mavic Carbon Cosmic Ultimates, down there the Ceramic Speed oversized pulley wheel system, and here the SRM power crank. So you know what to do, you need to vote up here for your favourite, and next week we'll put another two head to head. Right, it's that time of the week. It's time for the Bike Vault, where we rate your bike either nice or super nice. Now, sadly, I don't have my super nice horn with me this week. It was taken away by the customs officer, of all things. Not to worry, I begged, borrowed, and I stole. Actually, I just asked nicely, and I've got this from World Tour Mechanics here at the Tour Down Under. Listen out for that. That's the sound of super nice. With no further ado, let's get started. First up, Barry Hershey, Leeds, West Yorkshire. We've got ourselves a Look 695. Straight away, super nice. Then who's this? We've got Gavin Truman of Swindon in the UK as well. Toyota lent up again what looks like a farmyard gate. A little bit of rubbish in the background though, so I'm afraid, Gavin, can't really give that one super nice. Sorry about that one, mate. Next up, Ian Shepherd of Droitwich. He's got himself a KTM, and he's got those orange bottle cages on there. Now, those are the corporate colours of KTM, so I like what he's done. He's actually done a little bit of matching there. Nice one, in fact, super nice. It's cooling me down at least. Right, now, Mitja Klavora of Slovenia. Look at that Specialised S-Works. That is full of bling, isn't it? Just check it out. Look at the gold detailing. Super nice, no questions. I need this, cool me down. Right, finally, Ross McDonald from Mesa in Arizona in the US. Look at that Specialised S-Works. I love that paint job, absolutely love it. Stands out a mile, especially with those logos. So super nice. Right, now remember to submit your bike for the Bike Vault. Email us on the email address on screen right now, and also let us know where you come from. It really does help. Right, so, yeah, you're still here. So we're nearly at the end of the GCN Tech Show for this week, but don't worry, there is more great content coming up in the next week for you. So tomorrow, Sai's going to be in the GCN Tech Clinic answering one of your problems. Saturday, I take a look at triple world road race champion Peter Sagan's pro bike. That is one not to be missed. Sunday, we'll take a look at 650B wheels. And on Monday, yep, it's Maintenance Monday time. And then next week, we are back again with GCN Tech Show episode number 4. Now, also remember to like and share this video with your friends, and do remember to subscribe to the GCN Tech channel by clicking on the logo on screen right now. For 2 more great videos, how about clicking down here for some tech from the Tour Down Under, and down here for Sai's Orbea Pro Bike. Now, I'm afraid I have to actually go myself. I've got a plane to catch, so all the best, and I'll see you back in the UK.